Hello and welcome to SGN Tech Forum. Today we are going to do advanced stuff, that is SD routing security. In previous video, you saw how to bring your traditional WAN edge router to SD routing and how you can use SD routing to do some common operational tasks like upgrading the software, etc. using the inbuilt workflow. Now we are going to do something advanced and really interesting. What is that? We are going to create or configure security policies so that we can apply it to our WAN edge devices using SD-WAN Manager. So what is the goal here? To manage and push consistent security policy to WAN edge devices using SD-WAN Manager. Why you would like to do that? Because you can easily apply next generation firewall, URL filtering, IPS, AMS, DNS security, all this security construct directly from SD-WAN Manager using intuitive GUI. So let's build this now. Before we go to demo, let's understand a few more things, like what are the prerequisite. And in this case, we are strictly talking about ISR 1131X because that's the router model we are using for our build starting uh, from SD routing, where we converted the traditional WAN router to SD routing. So that's our testbed. What do you need? You need sufficient hardware resources to run UTD container, that is 8 GB of DRAM and 16 GB of flash, which this router qualifies anyways. And don't worry about UTD container. As we build things will be clear. And also, please note that this SD routing security feature is supported starting with iOS XE 17.13 and SD-WAN Manager 2013. That is your minimum software configuration. Then couple of few things like a housekeeping kind of thing, and I'm sure if it is a production router, in-use router, it qualify all these, but it's worth it reiterating that device must have enable secret configured, device must have security K9 license because we are dealing into security, so make sure that you have security K9 license on your device. Then device must have a configuration group attached before applying the security policy. So this is not a prerequisite, but this is kind of flow, and you will understand when I show you the demo. And also do not restrict your VTY logins or VTY line for local login. So use some kind of AAA. And also this is all about ISR 1K. If you have CSR 8KV or any other router, please do check Cisco documentation to make sure your hardware is ready and eligible for SD-WAN security. So here I'm going to just summarize the steps, and we are going to follow all these steps in demo, but it is good to have a point of reference in mind that what we are doing in what order. So if at this point of time it doesn't make sense to you, don't worry about it, just take a screenshot, keep it handy. But let me walk you through this anyways, because this is the flow we are going to follow. So first we are going to verify prerequisites, that means hardware and software resources. Then we will build configuration group using and template, and this template building is not going to be very involved because we are going to use a workaround or a hack. That means we will use existing CLI configuration to as a template. So it will be easy. Associate the WAN edge to config group and deploy the configuration. Once you build your configuration group, obviously you need to associate your SD router and then deploy the configuration. Once that is done, we will move into security, build your policy group, and then go and create embedded security group. Within embedded security group, we are going to define sub policies like what is my URL filtering looks like, what is my AMP uh, cloud destination, what I'm planning to send to AMP, and what is the IDS and IPS will look like. All those uh, will be defined as a sub policies. Then you have to attach this embedded security group back to policy group, and policy group is something where you associate your device to that, and then you deploy the configuration. Then once you deploy the configuration, you will see SD-WAN manager will go ahead and create a UTD container, which is essentially a app hosting for you, and it will assign some IP addresses. Once we know what is our IP address for that container, and I'll show you the command how to verify that, we need to make sure that the container inside interface is also getting natted, and we are also using the subnet which is allowed or allocated to container. We are natting that or adding that in our natting ACL. From there you can test your security policy, like whatever is your security policy. You want to filter some URLs, test that, and sit back and relax. All right, so this is all we are going to do in this demo. Going to be pretty uh, engaging and uh, complex, I would say. So please pay attention. All right, so let's start from our device. As you can see, this is our site 53, and since I have only one internet connection, at one point of time only one router is live, and they both are. So this is our router in question, 1131. It's reachable, and it is uh, control plane is active. We can verify the same thing from router perspective. Here I am logged into router in two separate sessions. In one session, I'm planning to capture everything what SD-WAN manager is doing by using that applet. And once we hit terminal, this terminal is going to be busy. So everything what we want to check, we will check from another terminal. What we want to check first is version. So as you can see, we are running 17.13.01, and we upgraded to this version using SD-WAN manager. So this is our SD router reachable to SD-WAN manager. And the other thing you want to check, you must have security license, security K9, that is available. Another thing, let's check one more time. We have 8 GB of DRAM and 16 GB of flash. So this is looking good. Let's go back to our vManage, and quickly I want to show you the software version we are running here, about 2013. So we are meeting all the prerequisites. Okay, we can start our workflow. Before we start our workflow, uh, you need to understand when you apply the security policy, it uses a virtual image of a security container. And where is that? You can find where you can find that. So go to your software download, like software.cisco.com. Based on your hardware, you have to navigate to the hardware, and from there you can see we have various software type. Within this software type, look for UTD Snort IPS engine software. We don't need a signature package. All we need this software, UTD Snort IPS engine software, and make sure you download the software matching your iOS XE version what you're running on SD router. So in my case, I am running 17.13 1.a. So this is what I have to download. This is by default showing me the latest one. So don't do that. Go back and download the one which is matching the iOS XE version you are running on your router. You can download this, and once you download this, you have to come back to maintenance, software repo, virtual images. So this is not the software image, but this is the virtual image, like all the container image that should go here. And then you can say add new virtual image. I want to upload it to vManage, and from there you can simply drag and drop to save some time that will go in upload. I have already brought this here, as you can see. So this is our ARC 64, 1713 ARC 64. You can take a look one more time. This is ARC 64. So we have our software image available. All right. Let's follow the construct. So we have verified the prerequisite. Now we are going to build configuration group and template CLI from template CLI. All right, configuration group, and add a configuration group. Create configuration group. I'm going to say site 53 config group. Description is optional, so let's leave it blank. Site type is a single router. And site settings, WAN routing, WAN interface. Looks like this is not what we wanted to do. This is typical configuration group. So let me exit out of that. Sorry about this. Exit. You can delete these things whenever you want. So we can say delete. Don't want it to be lingering here. And let's clean up this one also. Configuration group. We are going to say add CLI based configuration group. Yes. So as you can see, add configuration group was typically vManage thing, and this is for SD routing. Same thing. Site 53 config group. And solution, select SD routing. Next. Now it is asking, so configuration group has feature profiles attached to it. So either you can create your feature profile, but we don't want to do that, right? Because we are not SD-WAN customer yet. So what we are going to do, we are going to do something simple. That means within this site, I have this site 53 ISR 1131, and I'm going to just load my configuration from reachable device. So what is happening? SD-WAN manager is logging to the device since it is already reachable and loading all the configurations. So this is SD routing part. As you saw in the first video, we need this minimum set of configuration for control connection. From there on, so far we have not made any changes while we went SD routing, except having some telemetry, streaming telemetry subscriptions. All right. So this is looking good. And let me tell you what we are going to do. We have a WAN interface, which is gigabit Ethernet 000, where my internet is connected. This is the WAN interface. And then we have a couple of subnets, like home subnets, and especially VLAN 10. That's the subnet we are using, and this is our LAN interface. Okay. So right now, this is all good. You can go ahead and say save. We have our configuration group created, but we don't have any devices attached to it. As you can see, number of devices 0, device up to date is 0. We have one feature profile associated to that, that is the running configuration. So at this point of time, what you can do, you can go to three dots, say edit, associate device, associate device. This will open up the workflow. Select your site, select the device you want to associate to this configuration group. This is the device we want, 1131. Next, save. And then, do you want to provision device in site 53 configuration group? You can provision it now, you can provision it later. For our purpose, demo purpose, we are going to provision it now. That means it is going to push some configuration. And whenever you're making a configuration change, you need to check with your uh, CRM, not CRM, your ticketing manager, if whether it's allowed or no, like ServiceNow and Remedies. But this is our demo environment, so we do not need permission. We have all the permissions here. Let's go ahead and say next. Select a site, and you can watch preview CLI. So it will generate everything, all the configuration, what it is going to push before you go and hit deploy. So right now we are just previewing the configuration. We are not actually pushing the configuration. So all you can see is vManage, and right now we are not adding any new configuration because we are using running configuration as our feature template. So you can see there is nothing um, new other than a few login things. It's kind of housekeeping. So let me cancel this, and I'm going to go ahead and say deploy, view deployment status, and we can watch progress from here. Checking and creating device in vManage. At this point of time, we can go back to our router, hit a couple of enter here so that it doesn't time out. And here you can see this is busy console, but you can see vManage admin is logging in. It got configuration terminal lock, and it has started programming a few things. Okay, let's go back to our SD routing security workflow. So this is what we have done so far. Associate the vManage to configuration group and deploy the configuration group. We have not started the security configuration yet, right? But these are prerequisite before you can apply your policy group. So you must have configuration group attached. Once we get a success here, sorry about that, we can go ahead and close this actually. Yes, config group successfully deployed to device. Okay, this is what we were uh, supposed to see. So let's go back and go to our devices, find our device. Now you can see device status is in sync, and we have config group 53 applied. Config logged, yes. What does that mean? That means that SD router is now governed by SD-WAN manager, and this is our config group, configuration group, and all the features, feature profile what we created, that will go into device as part of their configuration. Config logged. So let's go and verify it here. Let's try to go to conft. The device is being managed by vManage configuration through CLIs is not allowed. Okay, so now we are good. Let me go back to this device, and now we will take next step to the security journey. Again, configuration, policy group. Within policy group, we are going to create a policy group, and I'm going to call it site 53. You need to be consistent with your naming, like you're using uppercase or lowercase. As you can see, I'm not that consistent, but this is just a demo. When you are doing things in production, have a standard, have a guardrail around it. And this is again SD routing. Description is optional, so we are not going to put any description. Our policy group is created, and once you expand, you can see this is the policy group name. This is the SD routing. We have 0 devices associated, and we have 0 embedded policy security. What you can do, you can either go to the drop down and say create new, or you can come here and say embedded security and create embedded security and start adding your security policies and rule. Before we do that, I would like to show you some of the knobs or objects you will need in your security policy. You need to have those created first. And where you create those? You create those here. You have to define your group of interest. So click on group of interest, security, profile, and this will expand this thing here. As you can see, we have add TLS and all those things are here. Okay, so that's how you create your um, different construct. One key thing is zone. You need to define your zone because that's the thing or the construct we are going to use in embedded security policy. So don't get confused. It will be clear when we start building our um, embedded security policy. As you can see, we have outside 53 and inside 53. These two I created beforehand. And what is that? This is essentially my WAN interface, gig 000. And as I mentioned earlier, VLAN 10 is our NAT inside LAN interface. So instead of naming them WAN and LAN, I name them something custom outside 53, inside 53, so that we know that this is mapped to site 53 LAN and WAN interface. All right. You can add more zones as you want. Depend on, like, if you have different kind of routers, then their WAN interface will be different. Say for example, CSR 8 kV, they have a different naming convention for interface. So you will definitely need another zone list for that. Okay. So this is looking good. We can going to cancel out of here and let's start building our embedded security policy. Add security policy. It will open up a workflow. Process overview, select configuration group, create firewall policy, and configure advanced settings. Policy name. So this is our embedded security policy. I'm going to say site 53 security policy. No description. Device solution is again SD routing. Please click. So right now you have a bucket created for security policy, but there is no actual policies in that. So what it is asking, please click add sub policy and start creating sub policies. I'll show you the additional settings also here real quick. So this is some additional setting if you want to restrict the TCP SYN flood, optimize policy, ICMP unreachable allow, and all those things. But we are mainly interested in IPS, IDS, URL filtering, etc. So let's say add sub policy, source zone. That's where you have seen group of interest. I have to specify how my policy is going to look like. So I'm going to say from my inside interface to outside interface, from LAN to WAN. So I'm going to say inside 53. So you can imagine, unless you define the group of interest, you won't be able to come and find that in a drop down. This is the rule number 1, sequence 1, destination zone, which is outside 53. Let me see if I can find that. Outside 53. Yes. Match condition. You can have all kind of match conditions here, like source, geolocation, IP4 prefixes, port, and all those things. Protocol, you can match based on protocol and application. So you can have very granular match conditions. What if you don't select anything? That means it's match all. Okay, and then you have the action part. So we are going to say match all, and for action either you can do pass, that means pass without inspecting. uh, then you can simply do a drop based on what kind of match condition you have. If you have a granular permissions or match conditions, you may want to say pass this to this destination versus drop, simply drop this to this destination. However, what we were going to do, we are going to say inspect here. And then once you do inspect, you need to define an advanced inspection profile to inspect against, right? So for that, I'm going to say create new, and this is all the security construct we are creating. Whatever you create here, they'll be parked under security, and I'll show you where it goes actually. So this is my advanced inspection profile. I'm going to name it something similar, site 53, inspect, right? Say profile also, so that we know this is a bucket. We don't need a description. Select an intrusion prevention. So advanced inspection profile essentially give you three sub policies. One for IPS, we can say create a new one. Again, without going into detail, for IPS you have balance, connectivity, and security. Balance is a good mix. Connectivity is a recent, like depend on what kind of CVSS database it fetches, right? And security is very strict one. I will leave it to balance. Let's give this profile a name, and this is site 53, 53 IPS profile. Balance is good. Inspect mode is either detection or protection. I'm going to leave it to detection to be on safe side, because whatever policy you are creating, you need to test them thoroughly so that you know that your policy is doing what it is intended for. Because if you don't test it, you may see that some of your legit application or productivity application will be blocked, which can frustrate the workforce. So always test what you are building in terms of policy. Then you have some advanced thing. You can bring your own signature set. All right. So we are not going to do any advanced thing here. This is enough. So we have balance, signature set, inspection mode is detection. Go ahead and add this. For URL filtering, this is very interesting because this can give us a quick check for our policy. That's why I like URL filtering, site 53, URL filtering profile. We are going to say web category, block, and then select one or more category. So you can select all kind of categories, but be aware again, as I mentioned, say for example, you want to block social media or streaming, then be sure that you do it granular basis, because if you're streaming, you block streaming, that will not only block Spotify, but it will also block your enterprise streaming event and all those things. So please test that. And web reputation, block sites based on their web reputation, that is some kind of a DNS security, moderate risk, advanced. Again, I'm just flashing it for your preview. We are not going to do anything here. URL filtering. And finally, we will have the AMP. The AMP mean it is going to create the file signature of your downloads and etc. and send it to AMP Cloud for further investigation. This thing again required your due diligence because AMP has multiple cloud regions. So please make sure that you are allowed to upload the hashes to the cloud, and there may be like a data protection requirement and all those things. Profile, and I'm going to say North America. You can also send file analysis. So this is the advanced stuff. We are good. We want to do some basic thing here. Okay. So now we have our advanced inspection profile created that will be uh, used to match the traffic leaving from our LAN interface to WAN interface. Okay. We have completed the workflow. You can add more rules in case you want, just by saying add more rule. So for now, let's save this. Would like this. This is looking good. Save it. Now, whatever we created, it looks like this. So rule is rule name is rule 1. Destination going to from inside 53 to outside 53. We are matching all, and this is our sub policy. We're gonna go and say next. We can also have some firewall rules. This is essentially the same thing. Sorry, it's a summary. Basically, this is the bucket, this is the rule, and what this is additional settings. We are not doing anything with additional settings. And we are happy with the summary. Let's go ahead and submit this. View all security policies. Our security policy, we have just one. Time to tie this security policy with policy group. So come back to site 53 policy group, embedded security. Now in drop down, we will see the newly created security policy. Okay, select that. You can save it right now. Saving it will not do anything, right? We have a policy group. We have a security policy attached to that. Number is 1. But our goal is to deploy this or associated a device to this security policy. And for that, what you are going to do, we are going to hit this column and say associated device. Choose your device, review configuration. So 1131, that is the device. SD-Routing, save, and we have just associated the device. We have not deployed the configuration. You can either hit provision device from here, or you can say I'll do it later. We will do it later. We will just wait a moment to do that. Why? Because we want to make sure that we are logged in to router console and watching all the logs coming in. And where we can watch the log? We can watch the log in another screen. And as I guessed, this has timed out. So let me just log in and start terminal monitor. Very nice. We can go back, and where we'll go? We'll go back to policy group, find our policy group, expand that, and then we are going to say deploy. Select the site you want to deploy. This is again a workflow. Add and review device configuration, and finally you are ready to deploy. This is our device. Select your site. No variable exists. Then select a device, preview CLI. So you can see we have the controllers, and then we have our device in question. Let's do a preview CLI. Even now we are not actually pushing the configuration. We are just doing things from vManage and see what are the configuration it is going to build. Bingo. As you can see, we have this IP access list, class map, tied to policy map, and all these things what we created. Inspect site 53, advanced inspect profile, class, all those things is created here. So we are creating zone security policies. And then things to note is, though we are using zone security policy, what we are doing different, we are also creating app hosting. We are spinning up a UTD container, which is hosting an app, this UTD app. And for that, we are creating two virtual interfaces, virtual port group 0 and virtual port group 1. And we are assigning them some IP addresses, okay, zone-based firewall, all those things are here. And this is the container config. As you can see, we are enabling IOX, app hosting, and all those things, okay. Looks good. What you can do, you can also export config. Let's do that. I'm happy with this. Let's go ahead and say deploy and watch deployment action here. So checking and creating device is online, updating device configuration in vManage, and it will take almost like 8 to 10 minutes to complete the workflow because it has to spin up the container. And while we are waiting here, we can go back to our screen, and here you can see vManage has authenticated successfully, and then slowly it will start pushing the configuration what we saw in preview CLI. Server IOX has been enabled. So either way, where you want to feel comfortable, you can trail the logs. We'll be doing back and forth. You can see device has configured IOX. That is a prerequisite for your app hosting. Various type of orchestrator users, CFG loader authenticated, and this is all for your container or your app hosting. And we are having some additional logs also because terminal monitor is on. Yes, this is what we are expecting to see. As you can see, it has found the right software, ARC64 tar UTD snort feature architecture, and using that virtual image, it is going to create a container or an app. Successfully downloaded the package for app ID UTD. So it has found the virtual image specific to the platform and downloaded that onto the router, and then it will use that image to create the container. Amazing. You can see how fast it is push all the configuration related to policy map, then related to the container like virtual port group 0, virtual port group 1, and then we have this app ID. The app ID is named as UTD. You based on your resources, you can have more than one app on your router, but this is the orchestrated flow. The Veeam SD-WAN manager is creating a container called UTD and then associating the interfaces to that. All right, looking very good so far. As now you can see the UTD containers are all reachable. Let's go back and see what we are seeing here. Successfully installed app ID UTD. We'll quickly. So this does take some time, but it's good to understand the workflow or what SD-WAN manager is doing under the hood. While we are waiting here, let's go to the another console, and I'm going to show you another thing here. Show app hosting details. And if the container is ready, you will see all the things related to that container here. As you can see, we have app ID named as UTD. The state is running. This is the image it is using. We have the dedicated memory of 2 GB, and what is the utilization looks like. It will settle down in a while, and then you will see the MAC addresses, etc. You will also see the IP addresses, virtual port IP addresses. Yes, here you can see interface ETH1. Think of this as a virtual router again. So you have a ETH1 outside and ETH0 inside. Let's go back to our logs and see how it is doing. Okay, perfect. Successfully downloaded UTD signature pack also, because we are saying we have the IPS and we are doing the balance um, signatures. So it has to download those things. As you can see, this is the package we downloaded. Triggered package updates. So take a look where it is actually downloading. It is downloading from the SD-WAN manager. I tend to say vManager again and again. Sorry about that. SD-WAN manager. And how SD-WAN manager has these packages, because it is a part of the same ARC64 tar file. So we have the signatures inbuilt. And now it says config applied successfully, policy groups successfully deployed to the device. That's what we want to see, and that make it complete success. Let's check the same thing from router side. We have already done some checks here, right? So we have our app hosting, but what we want to do here is say terminal length 0, and let's look at the show run here. Okay, and walk it from the beginning. Terminal length 0, show run, and what has changed. Let's just focus on the things what has changed based on the security policy implementation. We already have the AP pool, home pool, etc. So let's not worry about that. Yes, you can see we have parameter map, inspect, advanced inspection profile. We have object group, zone based firewall. Then we have a couple of policy map, health map, and then we have zone security outside, inside, and all those things, right? So that's all those things. And also let's look at the virtual port interface. We have the virtual port created here. Okay, rest of the thing, UTD engine, standard unified policies, site 53 URL filtering. Sorry about that, it accidentally copy and pasted. Okay, so let's go back, and you can see all your policy here, like categories, what you're blocking gambling, right? That's what we picked. And then how your advanced threat inspections look like. So policy is balanced, and we are doing just the detection. So everything what you have done from the UI, they are translated into the CLI, and you can imagine how useful or how scalable it is, because you do not have to deal with complex CLI policy construct, right? So at this point of time, we are ready, and let's find a gambling website and see if we can go there, right? So I'm going to say poker.com. Can we go there? Yes, we can go there. So why it's not working, right? We are supposed to block a gambling website. What we are missing? Let's go back to SD security workflow or steps to follow. So far, we have done all these things. So we have embedded security policy, we have deployed that and associated the device, and we verified the app from CLI. So we know what is the inside and outside interface. What we have not done is configure NAT on the container and allow the same in the subnet. So how you can do that? Now, so you go back to your router, say here, and you want to configure some NATing. Don't have that option, right? Because this is managed by the device itself. So what you can do, you can go to, again, configuration group, and then you can go to your site 53. This is our configuration group. You can have some CLI based configuration. So you can add some, let's go back here. You can add another CLI based configuration template or feature profile to add those additional piece of configuration. But what we are going to do, we are going to simplify this and kind of like do a hack. That means we'll go to our configuration group, we'll look at our configuration, and within this configuration we know what we want to edit. Okay, so does this have, it does not have policy yet, right? Because this is the last loaded. I'm going to say go ahead and load the current configuration after policy application. Okay, now let's look at this thing. What we are looking to do, we are looking to do two things. First, add IP NAT inside to virtual port group 0. Let's find that virtual port group 0. Yes, and as you can see, the subnet is 192.1. So I'm going to come here and say IP NAT inside. Okay, and then the second thing, what you want to do, you want to edit the IP access list, which is used for NATing. And where you can find that? You can find that in access list here. IP access list extended inside host. We are permitting two LAN subnets, VLAN 10 and VLAN 40, but let's go ahead and add our container. So we are adding one more permit sequence, that is LAN interface. Go ahead and save this. Once we save this, we are going to go ahead and say edit one more time, associate device, site 53, and then say deploy. Review CLI in case you want to do that. So preview CLI is very useful in case you are building things uh, using the objects or a UI, and then you want to see how it translates in terms of CLI. If we haven't done anything like that, we just added a few line of command, essentially the IP NAT inside on virtual port group 0 and an access list. So let's cancel that, go ahead and say deploy. And this might not be the best way to add a line of configuration or a piece of configuration to your SD router, but we just want to validate the things real quick. So we are doing this patchwork. Look at And this should happen fairly quick. Successfully notified device to full configuration. Device has pulled the configuration. Okay, and this will mark its success fairly quickly. Okay, config group successfully deployed to device. Perfect. Now, as you can see, things are all looking good here. Let's go back to our router one more time and see if we are still logged in. Okay, it was closed actually. So, okay, it was closed. No problem. What we want to test, we want to test if our policies are taking effect. And for that, again, we are going to go to poker.com. Maybe this is served by cache, right? So let me go ahead and open another browser and say, wow, this is what we are supposed to see. Anything which is blocked should say access to the requested page has been denied. Contact your network administrator. You have option to change this warning also, but to establish the fact that policies are enforced, you can see poker.com is not reachable because it is categorized as gambling web category. Right. Last thing what I want to show you here is you go to your policy group, go to your config of interest and security. When we started, we didn't have any advanced inspection profile, intrusion prevention profile, URL filtering, or AMP. But we know that we created a policy. So let's see what happened. Here you can see advanced inspection profile. What we created under site 53, embedded security policy, that is showing up here. So now if you want to add or modify this, you can come back here and modify things, right? So this is our advanced inspection profile. This is the sub policy, which is site 53 IPS profile. Say in future you want to go from balance to connectivity because there is some attack happening recently, and or you want to change the inspection mode from detection to prevention. All those changes you can do from here. Okay, and then you can go back and apply or deploy your policy group configuration again. But be sure to do this in a downtime because changing policies will interrupt the communication, side communication, right? So you have to make sure that you know what you're doing in terms of changes. You can add further categories. Gambling, tomorrow you can go and say I want to block adult sites, dating site, etc., whatnot, and then you can make those changes here, save it, and then go back and deploy your configuration. Same thing from AMP. You want to do file analysis going forward, you can do that. Turn this knob and all those things. So just wanted to show where it goes when you create your embedded security policy. Final thing, we have checked a use case. That means if we can reach a gambling website or no. But that's fine. That's one small use case. But what is my reporting looks like? How my reporting looks like? And for that, what you can do, you can go to monitor security your site, and then you will see firewall rule counter. Top rule is inspected because we are doing inspection, and as you can see we are hitting 3752 rule, these many traffic instances were inspected because my laptop is busy. It's going to a lot of different website productivity tools and all those things. So the more busy your network is, more inspection will happen. Okay, and for now we don't have any top threats and intrusion prevention. These things will get populated as time passes. And then you have the top URL category blocked, and we are just using one. That's why you can see these things here. So this is your reporting tool. Here you can come monitor security and visualize whatever policy you have created, how they are working, how your network looks like, is it under attack, how um, good it is doing. All right, so I know it was a lengthy video, but I hope you appreciate the working together and building it live. So in case you have some more comments, you want to do some more with SD routing, please do write in comment section. Like, subscribe, share, spread a word. Thank you, and I'll catch you in next interesting video. Thank you very much.